Today, we'll be giving you tips and tricks on how to get into those highly selective colleges. Some things that students and families worry about are far less important to colleges than families would expect. So, college rankings are absolutely not the same thing as finding a good fit college for you and for what you're looking for. And comparing students really creates just unnecessary stress in the process. Isn't a good idea. Minor details on the resume, which students love to compare, that rarely is a deciding factor in the final outcome for admissions decisions. Colleges care a lot more about your growth, how are you growing through the experiences you've had, and are your activities well aligned with the goals that you've set out for yourself? And is their college a good fit for you? And are you a good fit for their college? Those are the things that matter. So letting go of those sorts of myths that typically come up in college admissions will help to reduce the stress for everyone involved in the process. And when you think about contribution, that's about how a student shows up on campus. What will they add to that campus environment, both in the classroom and outside the classroom? How do colleges read applications differently for students from competitive high schools? This is a question I get a lot. Admissions officers always evaluate students in context. So that means, what sorts of opportunities have you had? They're looking at the school profile, which schools will send them along with the actual application itself, because again, that gives context. Course rigor is absolutely evaluated relative to what's offered. So if your school doesn't offer many AP options, for example, they're not going to expect that you will have that. Performance is compared within the student's school or environment. So you're looking at what opportunities did you have, what did you take advantage of. That context helps admissions officers to assess readiness fairly. Did you take advantage of what was offered to you through your school? That's what they're looking at as they're looking at you in context. And that context shapes how every single application is understood and reviewed. What role does clarity of direction play in admissions decisions? A really important question. Being clear in your direction and what it is you're aiming for signals that you're ready for college level work, both academically and in terms of your extracurriculars and what your final goals are. So, direction helps to explain what your academic and activity choices have been to support the direction that you're hoping to go in. Clear goals absolutely strengthen your essays and interviews, and that comes across clearly to the people you're talking to, both through your essays and in terms of your interviews themselves. Admissions officers absolutely value focus over uncertainty. So they expect you will have thoughtfully thought about what it is you're interested in and aligned your classes and academics and extracurricular choices with those intentions. So direction doesn't mean that you have all the final answers. It just means that you're clear in terms of your goals. And clarity makes applications so much easier to trust, because at that point they understand that this is a student who has clearly thought through their goals, understands what it will take to get there, and they feel more confident that you will succeed on their campus. How can students communicate their intellectual curiosity, which a lot of colleges want to understand, if they're not naturally outspoken? And that's a fair question. So intellectual curiosity doesn't necessarily mean that you're very loud or you're extroverted. Curiosity can be shown through independent learning. How do you pursue topics that you're interested in? So reading outside of your classwork, participating in special projects, and exploration of that topic you're interested in all count. Thoughtful questions demand engagement. Your curiosity shows up through actions and the things you choose to do, not from volume or being loud. Leadership also shows through actions, not through a label or a title that you've been given. What sorts of red flags can unintentionally show up in applications, even when students have strong stats to demonstrate? Even the strongest students can send very confusing signals unintentionally. That would look like things like inconsistent activities, or your activities don't seem to align with your goals, and that can raise questions. You're looking for alignment in this process. Vague explanations also weaken your credibility. So very important to have crisp, clear explanations of what you have listed in your applications. And over-parenting, which can show up in an application, believe it or not, even in the essays, those sorts of signals absolutely can show up in the essays, or in the sorts of communication that you have with a college. And that self-reflection that we've talked about so many times, that lack of self-reflection makes profiles feel flat. Again, they're really trying to get to know who you are. So clarity and ownership prevent mixed messages in the application process. Do you need help? Give us a call, 713-333-9359, or you can email us, jyoung@collegeexcellence.com.